Quick introduction.
Okay.
So welcome all. You are at Necessity is the Mother of All Power Automation here with Reuben Schmitz. Appreciate you being here today, Reuben. Just a few things, housekeeping items. If you're still hearing those beeps, there is a way if you click on your name up at the top corner and hit sound effects, those will go away when people are entering. Hopefully by now, most of those beeps have gone away. That was a different beep. That was to make sure we're on time. Reuben will take questions at the end of his session. And if you haven't looked already, Reuben has preloaded his slides and an addendum. Thank you, Reuben, for having that there and ready for anyone to access. So that's completely available within the agenda and the sessions. And with that, Reuben, thank you so much for being here.
All right. Well, thanks for giving me the time here, and welcome everyone. I'm not surprised, but it's good to see all of you here. But as you probably gathered from the introduction and from the notes here, this is a pretty basic session, kind of looking at our journey through to get started with Power Automate, Power BI, as well as how we make use of it, and just giving you kind of a quick glimpse of how it works for us. So with that in mind, I'm going to pull in the window here. We'll share my screen, and there we are. So as I mentioned, or as was mentioned, Reuben Schmitz, I work as a prospect analyst for the Wisconsin Synod here in Wisconsin. I've been in development for almost 30 years, but working here with Blackbaud since 2006. And I apologize a little bit for the slides too. As I looked at them again, kind of practicing, I'm probably a little redundant, but so I'll be summarizing some of the things here. But what I wanted to take us back to fall of 2021, and even though it wasn't even 2 years ago, it seems like it was forever. But that's when Power Automate was still very new for Blackbaud, and it wasn't really something they recommended to be used. It was just, hey, we're just kind of looking at this. Here's some people that want to get started with it. I wasn't a programmer. No one at our organization used it. I didn't have any experience to draw on with it. It was pretty much just kind of tinker with it, see what happens. A couple months later, it got a little more serious, though, because as you maybe remember, if you've been with Blackbaud for a while, in December of 21, Blackbaud announced that for security reasons, Microsoft Word wouldn't integrate directly anymore. So that meant all of the word merge documents would no longer function as they did before. And at the same time, we were transitioning all of our field staff fundraisers to using NXT exclusively. So we were committed to replicate database functionality in NXT, even when that wasn't always easy to do. So the way it started for me back in the fall of 21, I started with the Accelerator 101 course. It's recorded, still is available, I believe. And I augmented that with some other training videos that I didn't find particularly helpful if they were non-Blackbaud, just because they didn't really help me do what I wanted to do with things. There is the Microsoft training. They have the 8-hour, the RPA, the robotic process automation class, and a Power Platform class. I found those helpful to kind of see big picture stuff. But really, it was the Power Automate community and user groups that I relied on to help kind of get things rolling. And as I'll say a couple of times, I started very simple. And what I do is still fairly simple in a lot of ways. I use templates. I use trial and error. And again, initially, it was just to kind of see what the capabilities were and to see what maybe could happen. Because again, initially we didn't really have a burning need for it, but that changed because again, once we determined that, hey, we've got to replicate all of these word merge documents, I had determined from my initial review that Power Automate could do that. And so then the question is, well, how do you do that? And how long is it going to take to do that? And will it do it effectively? And how will it be displayed? And 100 other questions kind of went with that, but that was, kind of the thing. So we tried to identify different and prioritize areas that it need to be in. But initially, it was the word merge documents, specialized receipts, which are, again, word merge documents. Other functionality you'll see that we used to get some automation that we didn't have currently. So there were some daily action reports and gift reports and email notifications. And as I started using Power BI again, It was updating that information, getting data updates, both within Raiser's Edge and for Power BI purposes. So we made it a list. Again, didn't think we're going to do it all right away. It's taken a year and a half to get through the list that we've had so far, but you take it a step at a time, and it typically works pretty well. And there were some roadblocks. As I said, in 21, Blackbaud is only beginning to gather some of these resources. What you have today is 100 times more thorough and more complete than we had 2 years ago. But you work with what you have, and at the time, getting exactly what I knew wasn't easy. It's not part of my job description. I mentioned I'm a prospect researcher. That's my position. I've got prospect researching to do. So anything with Power Automate was really done as time allowed in between things. And I mentioned time gaps because, again, it's not my regular job. And so I would work with Power Automate for a few hours and then leave it for a day or a week and get back to it and see where am I at? What have I been doing? What are things at there with that? And that could be a bit of a challenge. Or when I get stuck, and that happened a number of times early on, that something I need to do, I just couldn't figure it out, and had to rely on other folks to help with that. And because I'm not a coder, don't have that expertise, it was something that I've just had to learn to do, and something is very learnable. Other issues there's some costs, although with the charity costs, it's under $15 a month for myself. Again, training. And what I found probably the most surprising thing is the number of steps that it takes to make things work, and the number of moving parts that you find. That any add-in button, you need Sky API. You need to have a trigger, and it goes through Sky API to do that. There's the licensure issue. Some of the templates use Encodian. We don't have Encodian, so you have to kind of work around that, or you have to get that integrated. There's Power Automate, Power BI, there's SharePoint, there's Excel and Word and templates and all the other things that go with that. And when you create a workflow, of course, you realize that it's not just, create this document, but there's any number of steps that have to be prepared. Each data point sometimes has to be prepared and formatted. That's going to be included in there. So the flows get very lengthy and very complicated, even if it's a fairly simple process that you're looking to do. So how do you get past all of this? Again, you just start simple, and you don't try to do the fancy, complex things right away. And if you've listened to any of some of the sessions earlier, the last couple of days here at Dev Days, there are some folks that are doing some very impressive and complicated Power Automate flows that do some very impressive data collection systems, but that's nowhere near what I can do. And if you're starting early, it probably may not be something you can do, but you don't have to be able to do that. You can start slowly, and again, with trial and error, help from others, having some realistic expectations, all this can work. And at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be pretty. And I found that too, that there are sometimes more efficient ways to do things, but if it works, I don't worry about it, and I just go from there. Other keys to success, I've talked about some of these. Again, you just start small, keep working, and maybe the last point, to make sure you have the support of your supervisor. That if you're going to do this, and if it's going to be, your supervisor has to recognize it's going to take some time to learn the process, time just to do it, because this isn't something you do just in a couple of minutes, and then support in the whole process as you go along. So what have we gotten so far? I have right now about 15 operational Power Automate flows that I put together. Personalized forms, again, word merge documents and donor summary receipts are a big part of that. Some automated daily reports, weekly reports, gift lists, actions. I do have an adaptive card. I have an example I want to show. I have some flows that update custom fields or update data sets for Power BI that feed into the Power BI reports that we have as well. Why use it? It's a challenge. Challenges keep things fresh, but of course, it's unlikely you're going to do it just to challenge you. It's because of the second point, the enhanced functionality. And it'd be great if Blackbaud could customize every work center for us, but of course, that's not practical. This is a way to do some of that work for them, but really for yourself, that can automate and customize the systems to provide the information that you need for your purposes. And automation, of course, saves time. And I mentioned the limitless possibilities and connecting. It's a great tool to really bring things together. And if nothing else, that I think is probably the most important thing to look at. So I'm going to come back to this. I've got a couple of screenshots, but I just want to look at a couple of things in Raises Edge, and let's see if I can find a way to get to what I need to get to for that. So
and we've had good comments in chat, Reuben. Just people
okay.
with you saying they're, had to flip back and forth.
That wasn't what I wanted.
Technical. It's okay. It's your Teams. We'll all just shut our eyes.
Yeah, just Teams. Was what I was trying to get in there. I'm trying to get to this window, and of course I can't because it's here. Let me do it this way. I had to do this before. It seems a little putsy, but. And can you see? Yep, you can see that.
Yes, we can see Joel's record.
All right. So this is a test record on our system. The information is not live, so I'm not worried about showing it here. But what I wanted to show you, so I mentioned the word merge document. So using Power Automate, you create what are called add-ins. And this is where the Sky API comes in, because each add-in has to be triggered. Sky API is the way you do that. But you'll see we have a series of 8 different letters here. It's a simple process for the user. You click a button, you wait a little while, and the behind-the-scenes Power Automate is running. It's grabbing a Word template that I created. It's pulling in data from this specific record, and it's creating a word merge document. And if I get a little green box here, and there it is, that means things worked. And I refresh the data on my screen, and you will see it is this particular flow does 3 separate things all at once. So it creates an action, and it created this action right here. We call it a 27 action. It's the action type for a future action or a donor plan. You will see if I click the drop down, it created a link here to a SharePoint document. If I go to attachments, you'll see it's the same document, but a link in a different spot. And it also created a custom field, DNP status, donor nurture plan. And you can see the status is added. We use this to track these plans to see how many have been done and completed, what's the status of those, etc. So the word merge document itself is pretty basic, and it's going to show up here. I don't have to redo anything else. And it did let me. And of course, it didn't pull up the document. Let me see if I can share that. Share document. Try it this way. All right, now you can see it. So the document is here. It opens up, and because it's in SharePoint, we use Office 365. You can see the autosave is on. So that means that any change that I make, and it's really filling in a plan for the year, is the focus of this document. It's there, but you can see the word merge information. So it has the solicitor, the date, and it has the donor information, person and age, as well as the spouse. Now you'll notice here that it says clap or tap here to enter text. This is one of those efficiency things. There is no age for this donor because it's just test information. So it just shows kind of the default info. There's probably a way to make it prettier and to remove that if that age is not there, to not fill this in. But yeah, I just haven't figured out how to do that yet. But it isn't really key to the functionality of the document. This is proven to be and it does pull into status as well from the prospect status. So that's one document that's there. Let me see if I close this. What does it take me back to? It takes back to here. So we'll have to go back and try it again. All right, so we're back in the action. So you can see the action there. So this is a word merge document. You can also do the same thing with gifts. So for instance, if I had a gift And again, these amounts are kind of odd, but they're just test data. But if I click on a gift, you'll notice I get the same thing here, that I get, once it opens up, I will get an add-in button for gifts. And you can see there's some specialized receipts. So if this was an anonymous gift that needed an anonymous receipt, I could create it here. I could create, if it was a new recurring gift donor, or a planned gift revision that was being made, or a split gift. All, specialized receipts that, the regular receipts go through a different process, but, kind of one-off receipts can be easily created here. Same process. It's just a word merge document that has been created for this purpose. But there are other things it can do as well. So I guess give it a minute to load up here. So I mentioned the adaptive card, and you might wonder, well, and if you're familiar with an adaptive card, you know that is really just a way to pull in a form, really, that can be filled in and utilized. And what I have here, and this is my giving preferences submission for entry, is a very simple form. It's just one field. Basically, people type things in, test data, and hit submit, and you'll get a little thing that says, yeah, there was an email sent with this information, and the email comes to me. And you might think, well, what do we do with this? Well, we use it in conjunction with prospect management. So at the bottom of prospect management, if you know, there are giving preferences. Giving preferences are great. It can help identify what sort of things people want to give to, or what they won't give to. But the problem, of course, is that giving preferences cannot be added using WebView. And as you remember before, I said that we don't want our folks using anything except WebView, that it can't be done in database. We want them using WebView. So I was just having them send me an email that was clunky. This automates it a little bit because, again, you can't connect information directly to database view. I haven't figured out a way to automate the entry part of it, but they can submit that to me very easily. They can look here. This is what's here. Here's some new information, not in here. I'll send it along and I'll put it in the next day or so. So that's how I use this adaptive card. Again, very simple. And go from there. A couple other things I do. I mentioned the Power BI tiles. So the first thing here is gifts by year. And you do have to sign in with this every now and then. There's a timer on there. But what this does is pulls in a graphical format all the gifts for the last 4 or 5 years. Again, this is just sample data, so it doesn't look very impressive, but it's pulling in these gifts here since from 2019 on. It would pull in every gift once a day that gets updated, and it shows it in the graph. So it's not anything different. The information's available under giving history, but if there is a monthly gift, gifts over a time, and you've got 3 or 5 pages of these gifts, you could add them all in your head, or you could spend 5 seconds and see a nice summary of those gifts listed here. Again, it's a reasonably simple Power BI report, although it's here for, again, outright gifts. But it does not include these 2 planned gifts, and that's also by design. If you look at one of these, and I should have opened the other one probably, but I opened this one. Each planned gift doesn't just say where it's from. This is, again, a will gift, but it also shows designations and a percentage. In this case, it all goes to, again, world missions. So the whole amount goes here. But the other example has like 5 different designations with different percentages for each one. Again, I could look back and try to figure those out in my head. I could look at the amounts and I could try to add them together. And I got to give it a minute to load in the information. But once it does that and we get back down to the gifts, you will see, give it a minute. Come on. There we go. What I've done is, and this is actually something I just created fairly recently, it aggregates these totals. So these two $2 gifts, come on, there we go, loading it. Notice what it did is it took those 2 gifts, added together $4, and normally it'd be, of course, bigger amounts, but it also shows the designations by percentage and by amount in a nice little pie chart. So I can see not only do they have a planned gift, but what are the things that they're interested in supporting? So when you combine this with the gift information, with the philanthropic interest information, our field officers can see very quickly what is it that people are interested in, what areas of our work do they want to support, what do they want to hear about, what do we want to talk to them about. So we use these reports to accomplish that, and they've been very well received. And you'll notice the hyperlinks, so I can access a donor record or the gift record right from here as well. I can do that. Everything is hyperlinked in here. From there, let me just stop this and go back to my PowerPoint. Okay. PowerPoint. All right, back to PowerPoint. Back to this. So a couple of other screenshots, and I didn't show it. On the home page of the record, there is a link to this report, and so this is not a report that is specific to one person, but rather it's an aggregate report. And we have different, what we call contactee custom fields. So it could be campaign, people in a campaign we've identified we want to reach out to. In this case, these are our recurring gift donors, and we want to reach out to them once a year to say thanks and maybe update their recurring gifts if that's of interest. So we've identified 532 of these people. And these are the people we want to reach out to once a year. Well, how do you track that? Well, we thought about using actions, and you could have a specialized action type. Did I contact a grow contactee person? You use action attributes, custom fields. Very clunky, doesn't really report well at all, really, in data in WebView right now. So I came up with this. Again, it uses Power BI. It pulls in this specific custom field, the grow contactee list, and it aggregates that by staff person. That's what the grayed out info is here. These are all of our staff people. You can see how many of these are assigned to each one of them, and it's their responsibility during the year to reach out to those folks. You can see the no's; those are people on the list but have not been contacted. You can see the yeses, and you can see what's left. You'll also notice the top here, the unassigned, and you'll also see the little pluses here. If you click those pluses, you see that Power BI drills down, and you can drill down in lots of different ways. In this case, I drill down by area, region, and then by what we call donor tier. Are they major donors or not? Because the priority is going to be major donors. So if I'm working in the Arizona area in my group, I have my own assignees, but there are these 7 major donors I want to reach out to at some point as well. And if I click these numbers, that's what this chart here is. It would open up, again, a list of those folks. So if I click the 7, it would show the 7 donors. Again, the hyperlink to each one, I could open up the donor record right from this report. It makes it very slick and very usable to do that. And I also mentioned some of the gift reports and action reports. This is an example of one of those. So once a week, I have an email that sends out past due actions. And it's just a simple one. This is one of the easier things, one of the first things I did, actually, one of the easier ones. It just pulls a list. It's designed to update daily. It pulls the gifts or anything that's past due, and it sends that list out. And again, this is hyperlinked here, the donor names. I go right to the records, but it shows me, again, the name of the donor, the action date, and what needs to be done. Very handy and very efficient. And I do the same thing with gifts over $1,000, new donor gifts over a certain amount, some for staff, some for myself, some for my supervisors. Very handy. So conclusion, full disclosure, I've been working at this after about a year. We actually hired a staff person who was actually much better at building Power Automate than me. And she did some of the fancier work on 2 different flows for us. But then she left after about 6 months, so it's still back to just me. And in Power BI, I did use a while ago, but it was with a data warehouse, and I didn't have to do any data aggregation. It made it a lot simpler. And so kind of learning that whole process has been a journey as well. And I did get some help along the way. but it's still not something I do full time. I just do it as I'm able to and as the need arises. I'm not an expert. I lean on others, definitely use the community user group sessions. There's a lot of great tutorial videos out there now as well that make it a lot easier to get started. But at the end of the day, I just use your imagination. You have to just think of ways to use Power Automate to automate processes. And that's something you'll have to do as well. You know, once you start working with it, then it's like, oh, I could do this, or oh, this is something that could be automated. And you find that the list just kind of goes on and on. And again, it's just really limited by your time. If you do pull up my the handout, you'll see that there are some links here. These are some links that I found, training links, helpful, and you might find that helpful as well. I did also have some specific links for adaptive card training because adaptive cards are even trickier to work with, but there's some excellent tutorials here and a couple of step-by-step videos that really make the process very doable as time goes on. And I didn't put it on the, you'll have to write this down if you have any questions afterwards or want to get back to me. I didn't put this on the actual slides that I saved, but that's my web or my email there. And I would say that you'll also find an addendum. I did take two of the flows that I showed you here quickly, the adaptive card one and one of the report things, and just went step by step. Originally, I thought about maybe trying to do that, but didn't. I think that's been replicated elsewhere, so I decided to focus on this. But if you want to use those step by step, that is there, and you can do that as well. That is, I don't want to do that. Okay, I guess I'm off. So, questions, if you have anything for us here. Let me pull up my chat.
Reuben, best session, the most valuable session so far, lots of excitement. There was even a point where the group had asked, like, can we get all these links that are being shared in chat? You did a great job with the slides and the addendum. We're going to try to pull additional things that were shared. Multiple people, Dan, other people had provided resources. So thank you. One question that I don't think was answered yet. Reuben, did you use the Power BI connector from Blackbaud, or did you build something yourself?
So as I said, you know, in my previous job, I used a data warehouse that was configured for me. That made it super easy, but I don't have that privilege here. I did start with the connectors, and those are pretty effective. The problem I had when I started using custom fields is that there's just so many of them in our database that it bogged the system down and it locked it up. Or it didn't lock it, but it didn't refresh properly. So to get around that, I did have to create some subsets. And so what you do with that is it's a little more complicated then, but you have to take a query in database view with the information you want. So for instance, I pulled in all of the custom field, the 570 some names. I just have a separate query that just looks for those results. That gets put into gets saved in the whatever the file is called in Blackbaud in database view. So then you use Power Automate to pull that information from Blackbaud to put it into SharePoint, and then you use Power BI to pull that information from SharePoint into Power BI. So it becomes a data set then that you can use to grab it, to build your graphs from. So that's the best way to do it because it keeps the information limited to just what you need, and it makes the data refresh process very efficient. But if you can use the built-in connector there, it's a lot easier. You don't have to refresh it. It does it automatically. But it's not always possible to do that, I've found, unfortunately.
There's Mark is saying that Joel, your test record needs to really up Joel's giving within the database. I'm looking through if there's any other questions that the group asked that were unanswered. Others had shared different forums, different links, and things that they'd used. We've got. There was a past actions question. I'm going back up through and making sure I've got this. Are are the past action emails auto sent?
They are. So any of the gift report, so I have it's a timer. You can do it daily. You could do it probably every 10 minutes if you wanted to, but I have most of them set either daily or weekly, depending on the need. So yeah, gift report, I pull in gifts over $1,000 every day, what's come in from the day before. And so what it does is at the end of the day, it just looks at the gifts. There's a list that says, hey, I run it like at 1 a.m. What are the gifts from yesterday's date, added yesterday that are over $1,000, pulls it into a list. The email's created, shoots it out so that when they come in the morning, there it is. It's just waiting for you. Same thing with actions. Again, as long as you can build a list that identifies the group that you want, again, it makes it a lot easier. Now, again, if you're good with with some of the other fields, you can customize that to the nth degree. But if you can stick with a list, that just makes, especially starting out, makes it a lot easier. And that'd be my recommendation too. But lists have some limitations as well, so you can't always do what you want with a list.
There was a question, do you use a lot of the premium connectors for Power Automate?
Yeah, almost everything you use is premium. So anything that you want to use, I guess. I do not use Encodian, and I don't. And there are ways around Encodian. You can use it if it's limited. But for instance, if you use a word merge template, and the template's kind of finicky, but if you grab that, the training goes through how to, and I just saved one of the training documents and have just been using that because it was formatted the way I needed it to be. But you don't need Encodian. And so I try to avoid the third-party stuff if I can, but you can't always do that, but depending on your need. But Encodian seems like a great product, but if you don't, I just choose not to spend money on it.
And Joel gave you a shout out to just saying how blessed they are to have you on staff using this and helping with automation, and love hearing that. Love the portion of the users, how much this has potentially impacted them. And Reuben, I loved how you just reminded people it's not, whatever terms you want to use, progress over perfection, and really highlighting like, look, this might not be pretty, it might not be beautiful, but it works, right? And that's the biggest thing. Yeah, that is huge. I think you've inspired a lot of people within this group, and people are even just saying like, oh, I wish this would have been day one. I would have had a better understanding of what was happening and going on. Are there any other questions or anything else, Reuben, that you'd like to share?
I don't have anything else. I mean, you'll have to talk to the Blackbaud folks. I could have been put on the main stage, but I'm here on stage 4, and the last day of the thing, that beyond my control. But I wasn't sure how this was going to be received, just because, as I said, there's a lot of folks, a lot more knowledge than I have. But to go with that, the question, how do you get BI reports to filter there? There's a way to do it, and I'd have to look at the sheet to do it. But yeah, you can link specific gifts to, or specific what you do is you embed the report onto a specific record, and there's a link that has to go into one of the codes that I think as you're setting it up in Sky API. You have to embed that code that says it's going to look just for that one record, and so there's a way to do it. It's not something I've documented. I've got, if you want to send me an email, I can shoot you the documentation that I have, and I can help with that as well.
There's a request for you to share more in the next Power BI user meeting. You're definitely follow up.
I feel funny there too, because like I say, you get some of those folks that are just kind of ripping through some very complex things, and what I do, it's really pretty basic. But it's something, if there's a demand, I'll see what I can do, and maybe fill in some time if that works out.
Love it. And there is the survey. I can't remember the details exactly, but I do think there's like a path for coming to BBCon. Oh, you are modest, Reuben. There's so much that you've created, and your users, and just making it approachable. I think sometimes users come in and they think, oh, there are all these steps, and you acknowledge it, right? Yes, there's a lot of steps, but you're still moving forward and creating. And pretty, who cares? It doesn't matter. It works. People are still requesting what you're looking for. Well, we have another session coming up in this room, and thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Our next session, I'll get everything cut and pasted in. But thank you, Reuben. Appreciate you sharing your information, your time, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you again at upcoming user groups if you're willing, and appreciate you sharing your daughter's art and everything else in the background. So thank you.
For what it's worth, yeah, it's been good. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, any questions? Like I say, just send them along. We'll see what we can do.
Appreciate it. I didn't ask you an Aaron Rodgers question. For the group, you missed Reuben and I talking about Wisconsin in the beginning, but
so we're probably still recording, I suppose. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers kind of falls in the Brett Favre category for me. I mean, he was great, did a lot of great things, but yeah, he's turned on us. So it's what are you gonna do? It's just
on to the next. That's right. That's right.
Jordan Love, we're all in.
Jordan Love. That's right. Well, thank you all.
Thanks again, Reuben. Everyone.